I'm pretty sure most people can't do one company. So it's very impressive that you got like two, exited one and got the other one to survive. That's amazing. And so now what are you doing to meet new customers? Are you doing like events, or is it just like word of mouth because it's such a small world?
It is a small world, but I'm not sitting at home and waiting for folks to come knocking on my door. The challenges with floor plan financing is those dealers should be selling through their inventory every 60 to 90 days. So you need to underwrite a very expensive asset and fund it, but that receivable is going to turn over every 60 to 90 days. So it's high volume, short duration receivables that you're managing. And also it's challenging because your collateral has four wheels or can get towed away on the back of a trailer. So you need to be policing your inventory in a very unique way to make sure that these dealers don't sell cars and not pay you off.
John, welcome to Product Growth Story. So happy to have you on the show. So your company is Vero Technologies. Can you tell me just a little bit about what was the problem in the market that you were looking to solve?
Yeah. So we support a very specialized type of inventory financing or asset-based lending called floor plan or wholesale financing for dealers of manufactured goods. And I got exposure to this space when I was in a prior role and found that up to that point in time, which was 2018, 2019, there were some legacy loan management systems, which are kind of your core system of record, accounting platform, very much kind of back-end technology. But there really wasn't any systems in place that had been developed to support all of the unique operational workflows that a lender needs to manage as part of offering this type of financing.
Mm-hmm.
And so,
and one question, just for those that are not specifically in this niche, when you say like floor plan lending, so is this like, oh, I want to expand my manufacturing and I would get lending to buy like the capital equipment to build it out? Is that what we're talking about?
One step down the value chain. So if you think about Ford Motor Company, GM Financial, Ford Motor Company has Ford Motor Credit, GM has GM Financial, Toyota or John Deere has John Deere Financial Services. So when you think about the large OEMs, or really any OEMs across any manufactured goods, and everyone thinks about auto, but there is zero-turn lawnmowers, there are tractor trailers, there are very specialized wood chipping equipment that municipalities need for whenever the leaves
or like
fall.
Interpack, for example, is a big conference for putting stuff in boxes,
Yes. So all of those manufacturers in many cases, they don't sell directly to the consumer or the commercial consumer. They distribute through a dealership network. If you think about the Ford Motor dealer down the street who's carrying 100 cars, and each one of those cars has an average sticker price of $40,000, that is $40 million worth of inventory that they're carrying. I hope I did my math right.
Oh my God, that's terrifying.
So in any case, they don't have $40 million of cash generally to just throw at Ford Motor Company to acquire inventory before it gets sold. So Ford Motor Credit or Bank of America, Wells Fargo, or Santander provide floor plan financing in concert or partnership with the OEMs, and the borrower is the dealer. The OEM, as they are shipping units to the dealer, are effectively sending those to the bank to get paid. And then the dealer has a line of credit to keep their floor full. So it's effectively inventory financing, but even broadly inventory financing, you may not have specific assets that's tied to. So if you're thinking about inventory financing just for like an e-commerce company, they carry a bunch of t-shirts. Those t-shirts aren't necessarily serialized. They just carry,
they're not asset tracking the smalls.
So, the challenge is if you think about a bank who's underwriting a retail auto loan that's going to be on their books for 48 to 72 months, it's pretty automated, but there's a certain amount of process or time that they can take to facilitate that. The challenges with floor plan financing is those dealers should be selling through their inventory every 60 to 90 days. So you need to underwrite a very expensive asset and fund it, but that receivable is going to turn over every 60 to 90 days. So it's high volume, short duration receivables that you're managing. And also it's challenging because your collateral has four wheels or can get towed away on the back of a trailer. So you need to be policing your inventory in a very unique way to make sure that these dealers don't sell cars and not pay you off.
Got it. That was a very good explanation. Thank you. Okay, so this is the area that we're talking about. And so your software is helping the banks and the underwriters like automate and care for this entire
Everything
workflow end to
from
end.
funding that high value, thousands and thousands of new assets getting funded every day. You need to audit the dealer. So it's not just your annual financial audit, but someone goes out and touches every car at the dealer's lot to make sure that all their collateral is accounted for and dealers are paying things off timely manner. Obviously, you have a lot of unique risk factors. You had a bunch of snow plow and snowblower dealers in the Northeast, and there was, I think, a good 2.5 year stretch where there was no snow in the Northeast. So what does a finance company do there? You have to extend terms. You need to make sure that the collateral is being, stored effectively. Is it aging out of, being the latest and greatest? In which case, what do you do with that? You have to move collateral to a different region where it can be sold. So lots of moving pieces that need to be managed when you think about the different asset verticals out there.
Yeah. And I'm curious, like when I think about, typical SaaS, these do not seem like the easiest customers to land. And I'm curious, how did you get started? Like, how do you get your first one? Because I imagine number one would have been the hardest, less trust, you had to really prove it. How did you get your first customer for this?
We took a unique approach. So, it was really important to me that we have some kind of design partner as we were iterating through the first stages of building something, because it's very much a platform. It's very much business critical systems for a financial institution. So you can't really mess around or have any issues when you're deploying it. So we actually
it should work for this one. It's got to actually work.
There's no margin for error. Yeah, you can imagine if your calculations are wrong, that's just translating into lost dollars for either the dealer or your lender clients. So we tried to partner with a legacy lender. It just didn't come together the right way. So we ended up starting a finance company to be the first client of our technology organization. So for the first 3 years, we started originating loans with a very basic LMS capability and a spreadsheet, and then just kept building whatever the most important next feature was to support that operation. And we were, I think it was the best way to prioritize a product roadmap, and it was the best way to have the tightest feedback loop, because by the time we were growing, we had 25 people in that finance company who were using the system to do every step of the lending life cycle every day, and they'd throw their hands up if something wasn't working well.
So in order to get the tight feedback loop and Dogfood it, you started a lending company. This sounds like, well, now you have two problems kind of situation.
It's funny, I think it was when we started the finance company, this was 2020, and our view was there hadn't really been many new players enter the market in the last 2 decades. It's interesting. There's kind of been a proliferation of new players who have entered the market over the last 5 or 6 years. So there wasn't really a problem to be solved when it comes to financing. Cash is a commodity. There's always better ways to improve the dealer experience, but that was a means to an end for us. And we kind of knew that. Now, fast forward, we got to that fork in the road where we decided to sell the finance company and, ultimately unwind what was left after we sold a portion of it sooner than we expected. But that was really a function of, we had traction in the market. We had a few other software clients who were using the systems. We got to that point where we were running 2 different companies, and it was, competing priorities, and we really just wanted to focus on the software. It was a hard decision to make, but that freed up 90% of my time to focus on growing the software business rather than thinking about the day in and day outs of running a finance company.
That's such a unique way to solve that. And I mean, I'm pretty sure most people can't do one company. So it's very impressive that you got like 2, exited one and got the other one to survive. That's amazing. And so now what are you doing to meet new customers? Are you doing like events, or is it just like word of mouth because it's such a small world?
It is a small world, but I'm not sitting at home and waiting for folks to come knocking on my door. So, I think like anyone getting into especially a, specialized industry, we got out there, we went to the conferences. What was really effective in 2019, 2020, when we were getting started, I guess it was 2020, we got really good at reaching out to folks on LinkedIn and getting them to have conversations about what were the problems that they had and that needed to be solved, and why hadn't they been able to solve them. And so that really gave us a lot of conviction in the early days that there was a big problem to be solved in our industry. And then, we kept in touch with those people. We tried to find ways to, frankly, be their friend and be a thought partner, help them solve problems, even if those problems were an arm's length away from what we were doing, connect them with other people who we knew in our network that could help them solve whatever that problem was, and invest in relationships. I remember going to the conferences the first year or two, and no one had time for us. We're just another startup, new kids on the block. Let's see if you're here next year type thing. And by year 3, people started taking meetings. And by year 4, people were looking forward to catch up and seeing what the latest was. And we were, a lot of these organizations are 2, 3, 4-year sales cycles. And even then, it's brain damage to rip out your loan management system and plug in something new. So we've had to really, cast a wide net and invest in these relationships in order to make sure that whenever they are thinking about it, and we're there to step in. But we've also took a different approach where we had a platform, and it was kind of a take all or nothing type buy initially, and recognize that some people didn't need all the functionality that we had built. And so and then separately, there were some people that were never going to change their loan management system, but they really wanted our underwriting module or our title management system or our risk and portfolio management.
Unbundle.
So we modularized the platform and started selling individual components, which would allow us to get our foot in the door with these organizations and build relationships and prove that we had, we could deliver. And then that obviously creates the opportunity for expanding relationships over time.
Yeah. And you can add module 2. I have a friend that calls this kind of marketing like be helpful campaigns. Very tricky. It's just like be helpful for several years.
Yeah. Look, everyone has tech problems, and the floor plan industry is not the sexiest niche in not just fintech, but within auto finance. Consumer auto or equipment financing and leasing has had much more innovation and investment relative to the floor plan space. So it's been fun to just be the person that hopefully folks pick up the phone and talk to when they're trying to think through something.
Yeah. And right now there's a lot in the news around AI. We have like the SaaS apocalypse. Do you feel that this is a credible threat, or is it just hype? Is that something you worry about?
I think it's definitely a credible threat to a lot of one size fits all industry agnostic applications. Like we
utility kind of.
Yeah, there's a platform for onboarding new customers, and it's kind of like a project management system. It's called OnBase. And I was looking at signing up for it because our implementations are obviously pretty heavy lift. Yeah. And one of the guys on our team vibe coded a onboarding project management system that we can use with clients that's integrated with all of our internal tools and systems and document like Google Drive and Dropbox and everything else in 8 weeks. So we don't need to have a third-party application like OnBase anymore. I think that's what it's called. So I think some of those kind of generic platforms are definitely stand to be displaced. I obviously have a bias here, but I think I think we're a little ways away from any of these large financial institutions vibe coding a new loan management system that's totally homegrown.
Dude, I hope we are.
So my point being, like, if you're a purpose-built enterprise application for a specific industry that's a system of record, and you have, 45 integrations with different third-party applications, and it's not like you can vibe code the piece of software that we have.
That makes sense. Opinion. And so there's 2 things about this that I'm wondering, I'd love your opinion on. I'm wondering, has a customer expectations changed because people know that they can build little one-off things? And does change management on the client side, does that become more heavily weighted in what people look for from your service?
So I think I'll answer the second one first. I think change management, irrespective of AI, is something that any good enterprise software company should be putting a certain amount of resources behind, because you are expecting your customers who have ever evolving businesses that need to adjust based on market conditions. and thus have an ever-evolving set of needs to adopt your software. And we're not talking about this just being a widget that, is like a credit bureau that you're going to pull, but rather there are 30 different business processes that our platform supports. And so inevitably certain processes change, evolve, new integrations are needed, new other applications. We try to say that we can consolidate applications, but inevitably there's a few ERP systems or whatever that we're not going to replace or consolidate. Yeah. So we need to integrate with those, and they change an ERP that requires, some system modification. So I think some of the legacy players in our market have tried, they're PE backed. The PE firms don't like professional services. They just want to see ARR. They want to focus on core products. It makes everyone's life easier. Yeah. I think, the fact is we're cloud native. One of the biggest advantages we have is that we don't have a code base that's 20 or 30 years old with a bunch of tech debt. So the challenge we need to solve internally is making sure that we can provide some level of customization for our clients without creating a cluster for us to manage and monitor internally. Yeah. But I like to say that we want to be an extension of our clients' IT organizations and product organizations. And so if they need things, I don't want them to go Frankenstein something on top of my platform. I would rather them work with us, because often those are where the best ideas for our product roadmap come from.
Excellent. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Well, John, as we wrap up, I'm wondering what, for other tech entrepreneurs right now who are looking to scale up, who are looking to scale out of that initial first few major customers, what would your number one piece of advice be for them this year?
Got a few.
You can give me a couple if you want.
Yeah. Just manage the heck out of your budget. Do not make big bets, make small bets, and then double down on those bets as you get validation. But I've really prioritized maintaining optionality in our business model. And the only way we can do that is by keeping a few different doors open and seeing what pans out, especially when it comes to product and feature sets. Until you have 4 or 5 clients using your system who are loving it and singing from the rooftops your praises, you don't have product market fit. And so even then, what you have is not the finish line. You need to continue investing and evolving. So the longer you can stretch out your runway to get those validation points, the better. We've put a major emphasis on, we don't hire until we're already stretched too thin. We're not staffing up just hoping and praying that some deal's going to come. If there's one thing I don't have control over, it's the timing for deals to get contracted with large enterprise clients. Yeah. And, the second piece is manage yourself effectively, because this is not quarter by quarter. You're looking over a 2 to 3 year time horizon to get to the points of validation that you need. I can finally say today, we shut down the direct lending business 18 months ago. And today, maybe a few months ago, but we now have all the validation that we chose the right path. So you're not getting overnight validation or monthly validation. You need to just put your head down and grind. And that was one of the big bets we made. So counter to my point earlier, but we spent a lot of time making that decision before we made it.
Excellent. Well, John, thank you so much. It's been a great conversation.
Same here. I enjoyed it. Thanks for having me.